everywhere, GBS.
A very good evening and welcome to the Inside Show, of course, your favorite weekend magazine that focuses on current affairs and politics that steers big conversation. The topic today is the state of affairs, and here I'm joined by John Kagwima. And you can introduce yourself, Father.
Yes, my name is John Kagwima. I'm a politician and a politics expert, and I deal with governance issues and at the Dedan Kimathi Institute for Security. We deal with security in the region, that is in the Great Lakes region, where we offer consultancy services to embassies and to NGOs that want to set up anywhere in this area in terms of security.
Plus the regional.
Yes. Across the regional area.
The elephant in the room, the world news, what's happening. The Pope is said to be buried tomorrow.
Yes.
And we've seen most of the world leaders have confirmed their presence tomorrow during the live broadcast, and including the US President Donald Trump and other world leaders. What is your sentiments on this?
The Pope is a big figure in the world.
Right.
And we believe that Pope Francis was a humble man, and he was able to include everyone in the church, and he preached what he preached what he knew, and he did not preach water and drink wine.
Right.
Because we understand that he had only $100.
Right.
In his possession, in his bank account at the time of his death, and he has said that he will not be buried where other popes were usually buried, but he lived a good life, and that is why he's being honored in such a way. And
Right.
we believe now the next pope has a very big shoes to fill.
And he championed for interreligious faith coming together for one cause. We could see him speaking on a fight between Ukraine and Russia. He was quite instrumental. May he rest in peace. Back to the country, we are seeing the political temperature is quite hot, and we are just 2 years away from the general election. Everyone wants to be a president. You see the Western region, there are generals who are out there, they are trying to test their foot inside the waters. The Kisii region, Nairobi, what's not happening?
In Africa, especially in Kenya, we politic in fact, the day that a president is announced,
Right.
he starts to look for votes for the next general election.
Right.
So that is we are in the heat of it. We are 2 years to the general election, and of course the heat is simmering, and every region feels that they must have a kingmaker. Everyone wants to be the kingmaker.
Right.
We can see that in the Natembeas, the Gashaguas, the Matiangis, the Aden Duales. They all every other region wants to be very instrumental in creating the next president.
And in the new dispensation, we are seeing the broad-based government, the way the president had named it, and we've seen some of the leaders from other regions are holding big dockets in government. We've never seen, lack for a better word, a Luo person holding a position in the treasury. For the first time it's happening. Is that the broad-based government that Ruto did promise to the Kenyans?
True. And the broad-based government has been able to invite everyone to the table. And
what was happening in government during his short stint in government. Do you think these are the last kicks of a dying horse, or in this journey, he's been made to be a political figure in the Mount Kenya?
Gashagua, I think it is very important for any politician to always remain relevant. And Gashagua has been trying that. And some of these things that he says, for example, I can pick one. There is a time that he says that the RSF leader, General Hemti,
right,
that he was sanctioned and they had a conversation with the president. But General Hemti was sanctioned in April last month, so this month. So it was in the start of April. So that shows you that there are a lot of inconsistencies in what he's saying. And it is very important for the country to understand that the NIS shares information only with the president, not with the deputy president. So there are a lot of secrets and that goes what is going on in the government that Gashagua had no idea what was going on.
So in your opinion, do you think he was doing something that is not good, exposing our intelligence out there to the to the outside world?
True. Because we need to understand that as a country, there are things that we cannot portray to our neighbors. We cannot portray our in-house. We do not wash our dirty linen in public.
Right.
So, and some of these things are very key to the government. And sharing such sensitive information weakens our position and weakens the government, because the government is an idea. Because you can imagine in any village, a village that has approximately 50,000 people, you get that there are only 10 police officers. So it is an illusion. So when you start creating rifts in that illusion, you make it very hard for the country to be governed.
Right. Of late, we've been seeing the president reshuffling the cabinet every time. It's barely a month we'll see another minister has been moved to another ministry. Do you think the advisors are letting the president down when it comes to making decisions that are quite gigantic in this country?
I believe that the CS positions that I think we are talking about the CS positions. And the CS positions, unfortunately, I do not think they count for a lot, because the policy of any government institution is created by the PS. And the PS is the permanent. That is why there is the permanent
to the CS regimes.
Of course, and William Ruto wants to always reward. He's a man that likes rewarding loyalty. Right. Loyalty is very key in William Ruto political.
And we saw that in the first cabinet that was proposed, and indeed it was a balanced. We could see there was an allegation that there was a leaked list of cabinet, and we could see indeed he did honor loyal people. Right,
loyalty is very highly rewarded by William Ruto. So, but I think in terms of the reshuffling, the government unfortunately is a machine that runs very inefficiently. And given that it runs very inefficiently, and William Ruto wants to, maybe, I think in my mind, wants to make sure that every other sector runs very efficiently. So it is if somebody is not performing, it becomes very imperative to make sure that that person is changed.
Right, and the corruption in this country, it has been vigorous. We have seen many people being slapped with scandals by the EACC. Recently, we saw the governor of Kiambu, Amatangi. Is the ACC getting it right for the first time?
I think it is very difficult to actually kill corruption in this country, because because the society itself is corrupt. A young boy is taught corruption from
what he sees in the family.
What he sees in the family. Because these leaders, we need to understand that these leaders do not come from the blue. They do not come from Tanzania. Right. They come from African homes, our Kenyan schools, our Kenyan churches. These are the best that we have. And they say that unfortunately, bad societies get the leaders they deserve. So EACC for the first time is being weaponized again. I believe it is being weaponized, and that is something that William Ruto said that will change, but unfortunately it has not changed, because it is being weaponized to go after certain people that are not in agreement with the president.
Weaponized in a way that to secure political seats in the Mount Kenya region, or what do you mean by that?
The biggest way to kill a lion is to go for its head.
Right.
So Matiang, for example, in Kiambu is a very major. We need to understand that Kiambu has given us 2 presidents, Kiambu region.
Right.
So Kiambu region is, and it's the next to, is the most, is one of the richest counties in as after Nairobi. So Kiambu has a major say in national politics. So it is very important to control Kiambu. And Wamatangi is not towing the line. He's not towing what the president wants in Kiambu. So it becomes, he weaponizes the EACC to go after him.
And we've seen the former governor also in famous only by Babayao, but the courts had granted him time to again go and appeal and all that. So do you think the Mrima is splitting again every day as it goes by towards the general election?
The aim of William Ruto in the mountain is to make sure that the king that is in the mountain is the one that he has created. And there is a need to create a lot of rifts within the mountain. Right. And that has been seen by propping up of, I do believe that the propping up of somebody like Ndindi Nyoro and the propping up of Justin Muturi, right. These two are meant to wane Gashagua's influence in the mountain. And I do believe that they are firmly in the command of William Ruto. That because William Ruto has instructed them to make sure that the mountain is split. Because Gashagua has a lot of power. But if you have other people equally as powerful in the mountain, you make sure that you have waned his political influence.
Gashagua is coming right in with a very new political party this time, and he has said that he has people in government who he believes they're waiting for him to call for that one presser, and they'll all cross towards his party. Do you think it will happen like that?
There is a very famous fable that goes that several rats sat one day and they decided that in order for us to make sure that whenever the cat is coming, we can put a bell on it. But now the problem became, that was a very good solution, but now the problem became, who is going to put the bell on the cat? That is what is happening with Gashagua and William Ruto. William Ruto is far much ahead of his competitors. That Gashagua, despite launching his party, first of all, we need to remember that he was impeached. So he cannot be able to run as president or anything. So he's just a kingmaker. And the kingmaker, we understand from politics that the first person that you get rid of when you become the king is the person that made you, because he's the person that can also destroy you. Right. So this is general politics, and it is well known in the mountain. And, but I think even despite launching his party, because Mother Karua launched her party just the other day, but if you ask any other Kenyan what is the name of that party, most of them do not know. So Gashagua's, that is why you see the last kicks of a dying horse, as you had said. These days on the news, he's item number 6. He's after the major issues, because he's no longer relevant, and he's trying to remain relevant. So that is why, and there is no consensus regarding the party, because who is going to join the party? Is Kalonzo Musyoka going to ditch his own Wiper party? That is the problem. Which generals does he have in his own party? Because people like Senator Medho, they are good, but they are seriously non-starters. They are non-starters in their political chessboard.
They have a long way to go. True, Speaking of Kalonzo, recently he had made some very huge allegations about the current administration, that the former general was assassinated by the current ruler. What do you think this kind of statements means to the country? And the DCI boss had told him to go and make statements, and Kalonzo in a rejoinder said that he should be sent summons us up to his phone, whatever place he is, should be sent those kind of stuff. What do you think that kind of statement is taking us as a country?
In Kenya, I think I think it was very ill-advised for Kalonzo Musyoka to make such utterances, given that we live in a country where the rule of law is supreme, and there is a lot of misinformation and disinformation. We are in the era of disinformation. So such reckless statement, that is why the DCI should summon him and explain which knowledge does he have.
And is threatening to go along with Gen Zs, and you can remember what Gen Zs did in Parliament. They went and did a very something out of this world. It has never been seen in Africa.
Yes, true.
Banning parliament.
And the military, when it was introduced, the military were very disciplined, and they ensured that there was order, and immediately the Gen Zs vacated, because the military went, and now playing with fire. That is playing with fire. Kalonzo Musyoka is playing with fire, because we need to understand that the military in Kenya is very disciplined, especially given we are one of the few countries in Africa, especially in the region, where we have not had any military coups. Our neighbors have had military coups. So
we've
we
only had an
attempt by very low-ranking officers.
Right.
So at the end of the day, we need to understand that the military is highly disciplined, and it should not be entered. There is no need for civilians such as Kalonzo Musyoka to enter into the military's affairs, because
he opined that he has this colossal evidence that backs up his statement.
Looking at
is he consuming something from the NIS?
I was able to read the document that was released by the government and by the military that showed that what really happened to the helicopter, because it had been serviced. It was engine failure, right. And such planes are not the first ones to the military chopper that was being used was quite old, because it was a Vietnam. It was used in Vietnam in the US. So at the end of the day, we need to realize that the government, the position of the government and the position of the military has already given a lot of insights into what really happened to General Ogola.
We've seen how do you call these organizations that tame such kind of utterances, and do you think it will go to the court of justice?
I do not opine that it might reach there, because the government has released a statement, and that is it. And that is it. There is no, you cannot, we always say there is a very good saying that says you cannot fight the government, you can only negotiate with it. So Kalonzo Musyoka understands such a position, and as we have said, politicians need to remain relevant. That is their key selling point. They need to remain relevant, and such statements, such utterances will make sure that you are in the headlines, and they want headlines. So such statements, we must see them for what they are. They are cheap publicity stunts, and they should not concern the normal citizen too much, because they are just statements from politicians that want to gain some headlines.
Recently, we've seen the IEBC, the restructuring that has been happening. True. There's a panel that has been set there. We've been seeing, should I say, the incoming commission has been interviewed. Do you think someone like Nyachai and Ann Amadi, do they have a temperament of holding that quite big office? You know, there's been an history with IBC chairpersons in this country. Do they have that temperament of chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission chairperson?
I think one of the most difficult jobs in this country is being the IEBC chairperson. It is very difficult to be in that seat. And I think that the Nyachai and Amadi are the two front runners. And I do believe that William Ruto, being the president, already knows who is good, because you need to understand that after these names will be forwarded to the president for picking. Right. So at the end of the day, William Ruto really knows his candidate.
It's quite strategic.
And we need to understand there is a collective mindset in Kenya where we think that the elections are free and fair. They might be free, but they might not be fair. Because looking at the last general elections, you can imagine in a commission of 8 people, 4 people, the Cherera 4.
Right.
So the IEBC restructuring, the president has a major hand in it, and that is why it took so long, because the opposition Raila Amolo Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka had a lot of issues with IEBC. They wanted their people in IEBC, because that is what you want. You want to control the referee. You need to control the referee.
Should Nyachai clinch this seat of a chairperson of the IEBC, will it mean something in the Gusii land, trying to secure this voting bloc, because Kenya has a history of voting along tribal lines?
Kenya is not unique in its politics, because I think it is very important. The politics of identity are almost everywhere.
Right.
And in Kisii land now, because they are now a very major political force, and given that Nyachai is still alive, and the Nyachai, the senior Nyachai, we understand he's the kingmaker in that area. So giving his son the IEBC position will go in the very good books of William Ruto, which now at the end of the day, William Ruto really wants that, because Matiang'i is such a major force, and Matiang'i must be tamed. Matiang'i must be tamed, and I think you can take this to the bank,
right,
that when Matiang'i declares his candidacy, one of the attacks that will come automatically is the Ruaraka land scandal. And regarding River Yala, we are going now to have a major resurgence of such issues in order for the government and William Ruto per se to now paint Matiang'i in a very bad light. So the Gusii politics are very interesting.
Maraga included,
Maraga
the former
included.
Chief Justice
True,
of the
true,
Judiciary.
true.
He was quite instrumental in this country. He's a big brand by its own name.
True.
Everyone wants to be president in that region.
True.
So giving, what's your sentiment?
As I had said, in regards to the mountain, it also applies to Gusii land. There is a need to make sure that there is no one kingmaker. That is why the likes of Maraga are being introduced. And again, I do believe that Maraga is also, the people that are putting up Maraga as a candidate, as a major candidate, it is in opposition to Matiang'i, to make sure that the Kisii people, the Gusii people, do not have one major leader that can control them per se. So that is.
So there's going to be an assimilation of what happened in the Murima 2022 election. They're going to split votes.
Yes, they are going to, because we remember 1992 elections. In 1992, if only all the opposition parties had come together and formed one party and backed one candidate, it could have been very different. But it was in the interest of the government at that point of Moi to make sure that all the opposition factions are divided. And that is what William Ruto is willing to do in Gusii land, in Murima, and in other areas.
Interesting insights here on The Insight. We are taking a short break. We'll be right back with more.
Topic of discussion, Leo, is a hustle culture. Hustle culture, and this is working smart versus working hard.
Working hard is where nina hustle. I'm working like a donkey.
Unaweza pata maybe ulisoma, yes, maybe kumaliza shule, maybe hii inahitaji maybe diploma, maybe ulifika certificate level. So I feel pia knowledge inachangia sana.
Yes.
Watu kukua kwa informal.
You have to like plan. You also have to delegate, and it's also sometimes about convenience. What is convenience for you?
Tunaweza work smart, hata kama ni kwa informal jobs, tuki-apply hiyo working smart, we can do something. Si lazima tu ikuwe ni kazi ile uko chini.
I'm picking a dare. What? Call your mom or dad and sing the chorus of their favorite song loudly. Mama Vanessa,
Just a sing.
we are live on TV. I need to.
Which TV?
GBS TV. I'm on the Youth Hub and they want me to sing your song. I've been dared to sing your favorite song. So
No, don't sing that one, man.
No.
Sing yours.
No, I will sing a nice one. I know many of your songs.
Sing daddy's song.
I sing daddy's song, fine.
Loudly, please.
I love you.
Shout.
You're my baby. I love you. You're the best. Bye, mommy. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know.
Everywhere GBS.
And welcome back to The Insight, of course, your favorite weekend magazine. I'm joined here by a very great person called Mr. John. Continuing with the state of affairs, what is the role of Kenya in the region from 10 to 15 years? We've seen Kenya being an instrumental factor. The Somali government was formed here. South Sudan Peace Treaty was created in this country. And of late, we've been seeing Kenya stretching its tentacles to Sudan, the original Sudan. What is the role of this country in the next 10 to 15 years?
I do believe that in the next 10 to 15 years, we are going to see a very major shift in the region, given that Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is aging, and we can see that Muhoozi is propping up to take up
The son.
the son.
Right.
And we can see that in South Sudan there is also a major issue where Riek Machar and Salva Kiir are also are warring. They are in war, and that in the next few years Kenya must play a very dominant position, because we need to understand that Kenya and Tanzania are the two countries that hold this region together. And Kenya's military hard power, we have a very good hard power, and we also have a lot of soft power in terms of diplomacy in the area. So Kenya's role, we can see that we have our soldiers in Haiti. We have our police officers in Haiti. That is we are the first country to send
In Africa.
to send its troops. Let me call them troops,
Right.
to another country, especially in the Americas.
What does it mean to the continent?
We are telling the continent that we are very strong, and we can be able now to help our black brothers not only in Africa but also outside Africa. That is a major diplomatic mission, and that shows the hard power that I was talking about, where Kenya has hard power and has soft power. So in the region, we are going in the next 10 to 15 years, we must make sure that we play a major role in reshaping. We can see that the Congo crisis is being handled in Kenya, which is the Nairobi process,
Right.
because there are two processes. There is a Luanda process and there is a Nairobi process, where East Africa wants to make sure that what is happening in Congo is being solved in Nairobi. So that shows you the position that Kenya is in.
And all this was an arrangement from the West, and now we are seeing this administration and the former regime led by the former President Uhuru Kenyatta. He turned to the East. Ruto has just visited, is on a trip to China. Are we going to get goodies for posterity of this country?
We need to understand that in this new dispensation, this new era, which is a multipolar world, we live now in a multipolar world. We have no major, the United States remains to be a very major power, but we do not live in a unipolar world, because we remember in 1990, when it became now apparent that the Soviet Union is collapsing, the United States became the only major power in the world. And that has changed with the rise of China, and that has changed with the rise of BRICS. So Kenya has made sure that it remains non-aligned. Let me call it non-aligned diplomatically, because the United States has a major interest in this area.
And during the Biden administration, Kenya was named the non-NATO ally.
True. So that shows you our foreign affairs ministry is getting it right, because now we are in this trade war. William Ruto has gone to China during a very important period where there is a major trade war between China and the United States.
The tariffs.
Yes, and now the China needs a lot of allies. So it is willing to give us a lot of goods and a lot of free goodies. But as I say, there's never been a free lunch.
Speaking of the goodies, I understand there's going to be another phase of the SGR to Malaba,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so far, do you think the expressway, the standard gauge railway, has it done something good for this country? Because the debt of this country stands at 13 trillion shillings. This is according to a Mutata report. And in other contexts, Jimmy's report says that this debt is odious.
I do believe that first coming from whether it's the standard gauge railway has its impact is being felt. We remember in the 1900s when the British Parliament debated on what is known as the Lunatic Express, the train that now started from Mombasa to Uganda. They said, where is this where is this railway going to? This is a jungle. But you can imagine any major city around that area. Well, in fact, Nairobi sprang from that. So at the end of the day, the effects will not be felt immediately. And I do believe that it is important for generations to understand that each generation must know its own suffering in order to ensure that the next generation lives a little bit better. So such things such as SGR are contributing majorly to the development of interior areas in Kenya. And I do believe that going to Malaba will open up a lot of businesses in the area. In regards to the debt, we need to understand that Kenya, Jimmy Wanjigi has stated many times,
yes,
that the economy of the country is going to fail in just a matter of time. That is what Jimmy Wanjigi has been preaching. But when William Ruto entered into this government, we were running on fumes. We were running on fumes because you remember Gashagua himself saying that when we went to the treasury, we found that the country literally has no reserve money. Yes. But currently, we have been, the dollar, stabilization of the dollar has really helped us in regards to our loans, because you can imagine the dollar being at 160 as it was at some point, and now it is stable at 120, 127, 129.
For a year now.
For a year now. So that means that our debt also decreases because we pay almost all our loans are dollar denominated. So when the shilling becomes strong, our debts decrease. And in the area in Africa, I was researching and I saw that we
still
are the
on
second.
that statement, what you've just said. Do you think the IMF has a hand on that? Was it a way to stifle the Kenya's economy so that they could benefit from that kind of arrangement?
The economic policy of William Ruto when he came into power was that, and it is widely believed by economists, that the Kenyan shilling is propped up. It is very important to understand that a lot of people say that the Kenyan shilling is not as strong
the way it
used to be, and the government has a major hand in the Kenyan shilling being where it is. So it is also imperative to understand that the dollar denominated currencies are now being we are now borrowing we are now borrowing in dollars. We are now borrowing in the currencies, for example, in the yuan of China. So at the end of the day, we pay using our shilling, which is very important, and that decreases our debt majorly.
Ndindi Nyoro had a very extensive report about how Kenya is spending. From that report, do you believe what he was saying was right? Because he was the chairperson of the budget committee.
He's crying wolf after he has left. He's crying wolf after he has left, because we need to understand that Ndindi Nyoro is a major economist. He's a major economist.
Because he broke them in a way any lay person will understand, and he sound quite believable to everyone. And this is about the Kenyans' debt. And in other way, we saw the minister or the cabinet secretary of the treasury saying that Ndindi Nyoro's report was wrong.
We need to understand that Kenyans, we do not actually know how much we owe. And that is why it is very important for the government to call an auditor, a very serious forensic auditor, in order for us to audit our debt, to audit our debt, and we understand which, as Jimmy Wanjigi says, which loans have already been repaid and which loans, because these loans are sovereign debt. This is a sovereign debt. This is the Kenyan people that are supposed to pay it. So we need, as a sovereign, we need to understand how much do we owe, and that is what Ndindi Nyoro rightly says. But it becomes very, very difficult, because you can remember the SGR contracts are not still public yet. So we do not actually know how much we paid for the SGR. So that shows you that the government is not willing to give information regarding how much we owe to our creditors. So that is a very major problem. And I think Ndindi Nyoro might be right on that there is a need to audit Kenya's debt, and we understand what is our financial position as a country.
The members of parliament had just approved more money to the counties, and we've seen how some of these governors have spent it. Do you remember one of the governors some times back had spent 200,000 shillings buying a wheelbarrow, one wheelbarrow, and it shows you the state of corruption in this country. Do they need to be added more money?
I do.
A county like Nairobi gets a budget of 60 billion shillings, and we can see barely nothing has been done.
True. Because I think what Devolution has done is that it has now it has brought corruption now to local areas. It has now the local man in the village now can be able now to get proceeds of corruption. That is what is happening now. We have made sure that the country now gets corruption has now been institutionalized in the country, and I do believe in any area that you go. That is why CDF is a very major issue. I had saying that this money should be added more to the MPs, because at the end of the day, CDF, there are more projects. You can
show what it has done. How many classrooms have been developed?
You can see
water projects.
True. But in the county, the money cannot be seen. They just create more offices and hire more people. So at the end of the day, it does not make sense. I do believe that there is a need for the money not to be increased to the counties, because we are not seeing the fruits of this money.
Some of these governors, we've seen them do tremendous work, like in the health sector. The governor of Muranga, he had recently launched a mobile clinic truck, and we could see that is working for the residents of his county. We've seen benchmarking governors going to his yard and land 1, 2, 3 things. Of course, devolution is working in some of these counties. Kisumu has been transformed, Kakamega has been transformed, Makueni County has been transformed as well. Going back to the 9 former provinces now, if the constitution was to be changed and we go back to that kind of semblance, will it be viable?
I think the framers of the constitution are very clear that there is a need not to have a centralized authority, not to have a powerful man that the money is in one place.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, devolution has, as you have rightly said, it has worked, given that it has been able now to move money into the villages, despite corruption occurring, because corruption, as I said, is very innate to the DNA of Kenyans. So
or African leaders.
On African leaders.
Yes.
And we say that African leaders, unfortunately, as we sit now in the country, devolution, I think, has worked, but we need now to audit the areas, because you see, a city like Nairobi, we have no money for development. The money is just used for recurrent expenditure. So at the end of the day, the city is not moving towards the right direction, and that is why it is very important to understand that now the government of for example, Nairobi, a governor can only stay 1 term, because it is very difficult to run the city.
One of the MCAs, it's alleged by some of the people online that he was assassinated after being so vigorous to the county boss. What is your sentiments on that?
I do believe that I think it is the Kariobangi MCA.
Yes, Munuve.
And the Kariobangi MC was very vocal against Arthur Sakaja. But I do not think that we just wait for the report, because we cannot be cynics. We cannot understand really what really happened. We need to have a toxicology report on him so that we can understand exactly what killed the man. And but it is not surprising. It is not surprising. Nothing can really surprise us in terms of how politicians act. That is one of their hard power of eliminating somebody. That has always been used. That is why in every regime we see Rivayala, and again we saw what really happened with a lot of bodies that were being discovered. So the government that is the last tactic for a politician, to eliminate his opponent and silence him forever.
And we even saw the Gen Z protests. Some of these young protesters were shot, and we couldn't see anything. Is it the ballistics report? We didn't see anything being made public.
In fact, it is very sad that we do not actually know as a country how many people died during the Gen Z protest. There's a time I was at Kikuyu police station, and I saw a lot of missing people reports, because there are a lot of people that at the morgue that until today their people do not know where they went, and they were Gen Zs. So the government at that point felt that it was very important to use force in order to calm the protests, because the protest, if they could have been allowed to go on, I do not think that we could have a country that now we are talking about now. So it was very important for the government to use state-sanctioned violence, which is very bad. But at the end of the day, in order to control such situations, the government now has no option but to use violence against its own people.
Do you think we are setting a bad precedents in the region using such kind of force? Will it be meted on the Ugandans, Sudanese, every neighbor around?
I think, to be very honest, I think the government showed a lot of restraint during the Gen Z protest, because the military was deployed not after the material day of 25th of June, but before 25th of June. We need to realize that there were also protests almost every day before now we culminated into the
hashtag Occupy Parliament.
Occupy Parliament. So the government also showed a lot, because if you can imagine such a thing happening in Uganda, where the military now it is a military state, or such a thing happening in Tanzania. So the government showed a lot of restraint, but also it meted a lot of violence, but not unproportional. I will say it was very proportional violence to what was really happening in the country at that point, because that had the Gen Zs. If the Gen Zs, because we saw this in Bangladesh during their protests, which were student-led. The problem with the difference between the Kenyan situation and the Bangladesh situation is that the protesters did not go home. Kenyans, the Gen Z went home. So you can imagine if the Gen Zs did not go home that night, if we could not have a country today. Speaking
on the reinforcement of the troops from the barracks, the military, the former CS of Defense, Duale, who was in charge, he was in record saying that they had to be deployed because the police force was very low.
And the problem is that the police force, and you can imagine one police officer dealing with 10 protesters. And these protesters, the 10 protesters will go home today, and tomorrow there will be another new 10. And the police officer needs to stay at the scene. So at the end of the day, it was very... And then as we have rightly said, power and statehood is all about perception. Because the military numbers were almost the same, but there is a sense that now we are dealing with the military. So it changes the entire perspective of the situation at the ground. So it was very important for the reinforcements to come, and we applaud our military. They showed a lot of grace and a lot of let me say, patriotism and statesmanship when handling the situation, because they did not become violent, and it was very difficult, especially given the tense situation at the moment. They were able to handle it professionally, and for that we tell them kudos.
Our servicemen, we saw how they operated, and now some of them have been sent to the Haiti, and we've seen at least 2 of them lost their lives in some unclear situations. What is your take on that?
it has been very unfortunate that the state, any state, does not truly honor their police officers, despite the police officers being at the forefront of defending the state. So that has been seen. But in Haiti, what we need to understand that it is not the normal police that have been sent to Haiti. It is our elite police forces who had undergone a lot of training. You can imagine for all that period in a very dangerous situation such as that of Haiti, we have lost, I think, only two police officers. That shows you the level of maturity of the elite police officers that we have in Haiti, because the situation in Haiti is it's a tense situation, and given that I do believe that it is also in a reaction to the Gen Z protests, because we have understood now as a nation that the warfare in the streets we need a police officer that can be able to handle street warfare, and there is no place better to learn street warfare than in Haiti. So that is another angle to look at it.
So do you think our officers are well trained in the region or in the world? We are among the best. We have one of the best generals there was.
True. I think we have very good training for officers in terms of military, but the common, the common mwananchi, the common police officer is not fully well trained, because they go for kiganjo for, I think, 6 months. You can imagine 6 months. It is just for training purposes. And if you look at our officers, most of them have very big bellies. They cannot literally run after criminals. They are just there for the perception, which we said perception is very important.
And we've been seeing some of these, how should I call it? Some of these officers misbehaving in the government. For example, there's a demonstration somewhere, and due to lack of negligence, is IPOA toothless?
Let us say that it is very difficult to deal with IPOA. IPOA is not, because the police force is very strong. So given that the police force is very strong, it becomes very difficult now for IPOA to actually do its mandate, because I remember an incident where Esther Passaris, the women rep for Nairobi, went. There were some things that they were doing at the DCI, and she was told by one police officer that you are not going to enter. So you can imagine telling Esther Passaris, a sitting representative of the people, that you're not going to enter, and that police officer is still working. So at the end of the day, it shows you that there is a lot of power in the police, but at the end of the day, so they get away with almost anything. That is why you see there are summons by the court to call them, but you just ignore the summon. Nothing can happen to you. So that is why the IPOA becomes now very toothless, because it is dealing with the same institution.
Some of these politicians enjoy political patronages. For example, some that you had mentioned before there, they do have godfathers who are in this government, so it makes them quite untouchable, right? True.
It makes them quite untouchable, and it makes a lot of, if you get into power, I think one of the first things that these people, the politicians do, is to amass a lot of influence, especially in the police and in the military, which is very important, because you can imagine any rank in this country in the military after major is a political rank. It is a political rank. So the person that installs you there, you actually, as we said, there is nothing like a free lunch. So at the end of the day, the police officers and the military officers have their loyalties, and these loyalties are to the politicians. So it makes a lot of sense. It is a symbiotic relationship, as I can call it.
The cost of living is quite expensive. We've never experienced such kind of harsh economic times. Is this constitution quite expensive for this country? Because lots of, was it the Ndidinyoro's report who said that $1 trillion shillings, was it 900 to $1 trillion shillings alone goes to the salaries of government workers. And he said that the staff power could be reduced by half and the government will still be functional.
It's a very bold statement, but as we say, who is going to implement that? Because that is a very unpopular decision. You cannot sack half of the force, because at the end, of course, we have almost a million civil servants in this country, and they take up a lot of our resources. But now in taming them, it is we are seeing in the United States they are trying to do that using Dodge. But in Kenya, we also need to sincerely sit down and make very unpopular decisions. But unpopular decisions, unfortunately, do not.
So like having
votes.
an assimilation of what's happening in the US, we have a Dodge program headed by the ICT technical committees or something like that.
That is a very unpopular decision, and unfortunately, such decisions do not win you votes. And you need to understand that politicians they require the votes. So such decisions they can be proposed, but being implemented, very difficult. It is very difficult to implement such decisions.
Speaking about the China goods, the trade goodies that we are going to get from China, the loans that were taken by the former administrations, we have seen some of them will mature by 2032, and those are loans that were taken when the former administration took power. And now we are seeing Ruto had secured something close to $1 billion, I believe. Is it sustainable for this kind of economy?
We need to understand, in regards to that, we need to understand that
we were the superpower in this region. Have we overtaken Ethiopia?
Yes, we have, according to the IMF report and the World Bank report, the problem is that now we are the biggest economy in East and Central Africa. We have overtaken Ethiopia, but we have not overtaken Ethiopia per se. It is because the Ethiopian birr has been devalued by almost 50%. So you can imagine that what that does to a country. And the Kenyan shilling has been gaining ground and has been very consistent. So automatically now we became the biggest economy, and we are the 6th largest in Africa. And we need to understand that the five that precedes us, that are in front of us, all of them have natural resources, have oil, or in the case of South Africa, gold. But in Kenya, what we have is a very active labor force, which is able now to have a very major service. We have a lot of services.
Is it agriculture and tourism? And
yes, agriculture, tourism,
and
the tea, and that is what actually, and we have a very big service industry where a lot of people now work only in the service industry.
It was alleged that some of these conservancies we have in this country owned by the whites, there are some minerals being mined in this kind of conservancies, and they're not benefiting Kenya in any way.
True. So
do you think this kind of arrangement, it only benefits some of the elites?
Of course, we live in a poor country with rich people. We live in a country with poor people, with rich people that live in a poor country. So all the resources automatically go to the top 1%, because majority of the stock that I think it is recently that the CBK announced that they wanted, there is a new bond that it was floating into the market, and it was oversubscribed by billions of shillings. So that shows you that there is a lot of money in Kenya, but it is with a few. So that is also what happens in conservancies. The people that own the major tracts of land, we do not know exactly what goes on in there. So as we have said, there is a need for more research to understand what some of these minerals in these areas are, because I've heard like an area such as Savo has a lot of minerals, but they are controlled by either political elites or very rich people that are well politically connected. So that is a very major issue in this country.
Do you think if these kind of factors were included in the trying to reduce that debt down, let's say, for example, we are going to make that soda ash there, the gold mine in Kakamega, the oil in Turkana, we are going to kind of subsidize our debts they can be serviced from this kind of resources?
First of all, we need to understand that there is the talk of debt is good, but we need to understand that Kenya, in terms of debt, we are not doing worse, because I think we are at 68% to our GDP. We have countries such as South Korea, Japan, which is 222% to their GDP. The United States has a major problem with regarding debt because it is $35 trillion in debt. And you can imagine that it is almost twice the economy of the United States, because the United States is 21 trillion. So we need to really understand when we are talking about debt. And in Africa, there are countries that has 222% to their GDP. So we are doing at 68. And I must also, there is in Swahili they say, mgala muue, lakini hakimpe. We need to understand that when William Ruto entered into this government, our debt servicing ratio was around 70%. And we have now been able to reduce it to 64%. So that shows you that we are making progress. And the bigger the GDP, the more now we can be able to borrow. Because unfortunately, how are we going to service our infrastructural projects? And we don't have the money. We don't have that money. So at the end of the day, taking a loan is for future generations to pay, as we are now paying for some loans that were taken during some period of time. And as I had earlier said, that each generation must know its own suffering. So the pinch that we are feeling right now, maybe it might work in our favor. The next generation might clap for us and say that this is a generation that actually did a lot of major infrastructural projects.
Interesting. Today, the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, we saw him attend a service in Holy Family Basilica, a mass memorial for the late Pope. We saw some interesting kind of faces there. Is there a possible alliance that Uhuru is going to be a kingmaker of the next general election? We saw him hanging around. We saw the judiciary in its entirety, the Chief Justice and the Deputy Chief Justice. The other person that was present was Kalonzo Musyoka. We saw Sifuna. These are people who have, they don't agree with what the current administration is doing. Do you think there's a political shift?
I do believe in regards to Uhuru Kenyatta, you cannot start a fire and then blame the firefighters when they come to put out the fire. So at the end of the day, if Uhuru Kenyatta should now leave politics alone as Moi Kibaki did, because Moi Kibaki, he was not instrumental in Uhuru Kenyatta's government. And given that some of these messes that we are seeing in this country, we need to be very sincere with ourselves. It was not started in this administration. It was in Uhuru Kenyatta's administration. Some of these loans that we are seeing, some of these syndicated loans, were taken by Uhuru Kenyatta with no purpose or regards to how they will be paid. So now, Uhuru Kenyatta, despite now forming his new alliances and trying to control what will really happen in Kenya, and you can imagine he was the incumbent, and he was unable to defeat William Ruto. So that tells you a lot about these political factions that Uhuru Kenyatta is trying to champion. You cannot start the fire and then blame the firefighters.
As we come to the end of this weekend magazine, The Insight, what is your last insights about, should I say, the current affairs in terms of security? Is there a landscape issue in terms of what Kenya is acquiring from, let's say, China? Because we saw America giving Kenyans, they did promise some helicopters, some security apparatus here and there. Generally, where are we in terms of security? Are we doing great?
In terms of security, we can do more, but I do believe that the Kenyan military has been able to also get a lot of drones for warfare. And we understand that the landscape has changed in terms of security, where drones have now been introduced, and we in Kenya, one of the discussions that will be held in Beijing, China, is in regards to our military equipment that we need to get from China. And I believe that given that China's technological advancement, we can get several major planes from China, and that being a US, being a non-aligned NATO ally, means that we have also gotten a lot of military hardware from NATO, which it might be old, but in this region, we are major power. We are a major power.
Interesting. A very great way how to finish it here on the inside. My name is Stephen George. I've been holding in for Eugene Quach. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.